Good evening. You're watching the news at 6 with me, Sean Russell. The news at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories, and we will be filling in on them over the next half hour. But first, the headlines we're tracking right now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs meeting of Niti Aayog, reaches out to the states on the land acquisition bill. On World Youth Skills Day, government launches its Ambition Skill India mission, targets 40.2 crore workers by 2022. 1993 Mumbai blast accused Yaqub Memon likely to be executed by the 30th of July. Maharashtra Chief Minister says the government will follow the Supreme Court directives on the matter. And amid growing dissent over bailout terms, Greek members of parliament debate tough economic measures including raising taxes and retirement age. A top story this evening. The stalled land acquisition bill was the main focus of the Niti Aayog meeting chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley said some states are keen to bring their own legislations to make it easier to acquire land, as they can't indefinitely wait for a consensus on the central legislation.
At the second meeting of the Governing Council of Niti Aayog, the Prime Minister reached out to the opposition parties on the land acquisition bill. He said the political deadlock was seriously impacting rural development.
कई राज्यों के मुख्यमंत्री, जिसमें प्रमुख रूप से यूपीए के राज्यों के मुख्यमंत्री भी थे, उन्होंने केंद्र सरकार को उस कानून को लागू करने में कठिनाइयां क्या है इसके संबंध में लिखा भी था। उसके पश्चात जून 2014 में उस वक्त के इस विभाग के मंत्री नितिन गडकरी जी ने सभी राज्यों की बैठक बुलाई थी, जिसमें एक आम राय राज्यों की बनी, जिसके मिनट्स भी अवेलेबल हैं, कि इसको बदला जाए।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi clarified there was no difference between the centre and the states on paying enhanced compensation.
जब राज्यों ने आग्रह किया तो सरकार इस दिशा में आगे बढ़ी है और राज्यों को जिस फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी की अपेक्षा है, केंद्र उस कंसर्न को भी मद्देनजर रखेगा इस विषय में आगे बढ़ते हुए।
Chief Ministers of the 9 Congress-ruled states boycotted the meeting, while Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar and Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mufti Mohammad Saeed were among the 16 Chief Ministers who attended it.
But for petty political reasons, if Congress leaders have decided to not attend meeting today, I think it's highly unfortunate. I think it's an action that is highly unwarranted and unbecoming of a political party.
I don't know why Prime Minister should hurry up to take up the matter with the Niti Aayog. That means to say he wants to bypass Parliament. He doesn't want to take the Parliament into confidence. And and taking up directly with the Niti Aayog may not be an appropriate forum.
Other notable absentees were West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, Tamil Nadu's J. Jayalalitha, Odisha's Naveen Patnaik and Akhilesh Yadav from Uttar Pradesh. The right to fair compensation and transparency in Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act or Land Acquisition Bill is being scrutinized by a 30-member joint committee of the Parliament. The committee is scheduled to give its report later this month. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now to our focus story for this evening. Execution procedures are underway for the hanging of 1993 Mumbai blast convict Yaqub Memon, even ahead of the Supreme Court order of his second review petition. Now, the Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis today said his government would follow all directives from the apex court in the case, even as the signs of politicking on the urgency of the execution has become apparent.
On death row, with the clock virtually counting down to the hanging, after appeals and mercy petitions have all cleared the road to execution of 1993 blasts convict Yaqub Memon, all that's awaited is a final nod from the Supreme Court. Memon will be hanged on the 30th of this month if his second review plea to the apex court is rejected on the coming Monday. Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis voiced a readiness to go by the SC order. Memon is imprisoned in Nagpur jail in his state.
मैं आज इतना ही कह सकता हूं कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक फैसला दिया है और उस फैसले के अनुरूप राज्य सरकार कार्रवाई करेगी।
The state has started the process for the execution by obtaining a warrant from the Tada court. Yaqub Memon was first sentenced to death on July 27, 2007 by a special Tada court probing the 1993 blasts. His appeals were rejected by the higher courts. In March 2014, the Supreme Court upheld his death sentence while commuting the sentence of 10 other accused to life. President Pranab Mukherjee rejected his mercy petition in April 2014. In April this year, the Supreme Court rejected his review petition, after which he filed a second plea. This final plea will be heard on the 21st of July. The sensitive death sentence issue and urgency of its execution has taken on colours of political debate.
22 साल के बाद में याकूब मेमन को फांसी होगी। अब मन में और एक इच्छा बाकी है कि इसी प्रकार से दाऊद भी फांसी पे चढ़े।
कोई भी बड़ा से बड़ा मुल्जिम क्यों न हो, अगर उसने मर्सी पिटीशन डाला है तो उस पर विचार और वो विचारहीन है।
Yaqub Memon is convicted of criminal conspiracy, arranging finances and aiding and abetting terror, among other charges, in the 1993 Mumbai serial blasts that killed 257 people and injured more than 700. One section feels he is the weakest link in the terror chain that involves his brother Tiger Memon and D Company chief Dawood Ibrahim. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And we're joined by Senior Advocate in the Supreme Court, Sanjeev Bhatnagar, to help us understand the procedure from here on. As far as this particular case is concerned, Sanjeev, if you could just throw light on that. Could you hear me, Sanjeev?
Yeah, of course, I can hear you. And what I learned right now, that decision of the Honorable Supreme Court is the final thing in such cases. And in case of death sentence initially by the High Court, the Supreme Court is the first stage for filing the appeal. Thereafter, if you find it in a dismissal, then it results into review petition, and review petition is also dismissed. Then you go for a curative petition under Article 142. The Honorable Supreme Court considers to do something. And in case that also fails, the petitioner or the appellant may go to Honorable President of India for mercy petition, and if the mercy petition also fails, then there is no other remedy lies. But if at all the appellant feel or the accused feel that he is having some points to place before Honorable Supreme Court, it can be placed, and the Honorable Supreme Court can look into all the aspects so that no mistake is committed in execution of such kind of case.
All right, but just to understand, because there, in terms of there always is a political color to anything almost that happens in this country. So, of course, this is also assumed that, and in that a lot of information or misinformation is being spread. So, just to clear all this, now, for example, as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, would the Maharashtra government have to wait for a final go-ahead from the Supreme Court before it carries out the execution orders, or is that, or is the old decision valid enough to carry out the deed?
See, if something is pending before Honorable Supreme Court, I don't think the state government is having that fastened thing to execute a person, not to wait for a couple of more weeks instead. And if the Honorable Court, Supreme Court maintains its decision of 2014, then certainly no option will be left. And law will do its own way. I mean, its job is to see whether the crime committed was 22 years back or whenever. Law is law.
Absolutely.
Maybe, unfortunately, the law is not taking faster course. For that, people are working on it, and even the death sentences are also under debate. So it all depends. But the existing law will definitely say something that, all right, the state government should wait for the Supreme Court to do its final.
All right, and the larger question as far as the death penalty itself is concerned, now many human rights activists have come out and spoken about this particular case, because this was a case of, I mean, he wasn't the prime accused in the case, and he was, of course, he's been convicted in a supporting role, but he himself had come and surrendered. So there are many other things being cited as far as this not being the rarest of the rare cases, as often is in death sentencing. So do you think this kind of...
no, undoubtedly, this case was a rarest of the rare cases, and I may not be in agreement with certain things that human rights people who are activists definitely something is being done at the word level. But at the same time, those people do not speak anything when the mass killing is done, for the innocent people are killed. So that human angle should be there in the human rights activist also at that time.
All right.
So I think it's my personal view, but I think that it is undoubtedly a democratic country, and whatever will be done by the parliament, that will become the law of this nation.
All right. Going by the law on this one, we'll have to wait and watch what the Supreme Court finally has to say. Yaqub Memon has still that one review petition left to go. Thank you very much, Mr. Bhatnagar, for coming in and helping us understand this case a little better.
Thank you so much.
On that note, we'll take a very quick break. Lots more coming up on the other side. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today launched the government's ambitious Skill India mission. Expected to be a mass campaign, it will involve youth and encourage them to take up skill and vocational training to improve employability. The mission saw a large turnout of union ministers, including the finance minister, railway minister and chief ministers. Also in attendance were a large number of private skill trainers. On the occasion, the Prime Minister unveiled the skill card that can be used by employers to verify skill training credentials obtained by any job seeker.
इस शताब्दी में हमारी आवश्यकता है आईटीआई की। अगर पिछली शताब्दी में आईआईटी ने दुनिया में नाम कमाया, तो इस शताब्दी में हमारी छोटी आईआईटी की इकाइयां ये दुनिया में नाम कमाएं, ये सपना लेकर के हम आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं।
Now, the Aam Aadmi Party has landed into yet another controversy, this time over the appointment of Swati Maliwal as the new head of the Delhi Commission for Women. Swati is the wife of Aam Aadmi Party leader Naveen Jaihind and currently advisor on the Grievances Committee to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal.
The Delhi Chief Minister landing in yet another controversy, with questions being asked about his choice for the new DCW chief. Kejriwal appointed Swati Maliwal, the wife of his party's Haryana leader Naveen Jaihind.
आम आदमी पार्टी की वो कार्यकर्ता नहीं है। स्वाति जी क्या आम आदमी पार्टी की जो सरकार दिल्ली के अंदर चल रही है उसमें एडवाइजर के तौर पे काम नहीं कर रही? क्या स्वाति जी अरविंद केजरीवाल जी की रिश्तेदार नहीं है? क्या स्वाति जी जो हरियाणा के सबसे बड़े नेता हैं और जो पिछली बार मुख्यमंत्री के कैंडिडेट होने वाले थे उनकी पत्नी नहीं है? ये तमाम तरह की क्वालिटीज कह लीजिए वो आम आदमी पार्टी की स्वाति जी के ऊपर एप्लीकेबल नहीं होती क्या?
दिस इज अ क्लियर केस ऑफ नेपोटिज्म. इन फैक्ट व्हाटएवर दे हैव बीन सेइंग इन पब्लिक, they are doing just the opposite.
Legal experts are also questioning Maliwal's merit for such a post.
पूरा पारदर्शी तरीके से पोस्ट को एडवर्टाइज करना चाहिए, एप्लीकेशंस मंगानी चाहिए, एक न्यूट्रल सिलेक्शन बॉडी होनी चाहिए। यही तो हम लोग लोकपाल और तरह तरह के पोस्ट के लिए मांग करते रहे हैं। लेकिन उसके बजाय और ये कहना कि स्वाति जो है पार्टी से जुड़ी नहीं है, ये तो हास्यास्पद होगा।
Outgoing DCW chief Barkhar Shukla, who has been at loggerheads with the Aam Aadmi Party, has alleged that the political appointment has been done to save two of its leaders, Kumar Vishwas and Somnath Bharti, against whom cases are pending at the commission.
उनको वहां पे बिठाया जा रहा है सिर्फ इसलिए कि महिला आयोग में कोई न्याय ना हो सके। शुरू से ये पार्टी जो है महिला विरोधी पार्टी रही है और ये सिर्फ इसलिए कि इस जो हमारे केसेस पेंडिंग हैं उनको दबाने के लिए कोई काम ना हो सके महिला आयोग में।
The Aam Aadmi Party, however, has dismissed the allegations.
मैं स्पष्ट करना चाहूंगा आधिकारिक तौर पे कि यह परिवारवाद जो कह रहे हैं उनको परिवारवाद की परिभाषा नहीं पता है। स्वाति मालीवाल अरविंद केजरीवाल की कोई सगी संबंधी रिश्तेदार नहीं है।
The post of the DCW chief gets vacant on the 17th of July when Barkhar Shukla's 2-year term comes to an end. With Anu Diwan, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And staying with news about the Aam Aadmi Party, in a major relief for the party, the Delhi High Court refused to restrain it from airing advertisements that allegedly glorify Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. The court was hearing a PIL filed by DPCC Chief Ajay Makhan, in which he alleged that a publicity campaign violated Advertisement Guidelines 2014. The petition also sought direction, calling upon the centre to constitute a 3-member body to regulate airing of politically motivated ads. Though the court refused to restrain the Aam Aadmi Party government, it asked the Government Council whether the central government had taken any steps to follow Supreme Court guidelines issued on the matter in May this year. Well, let's get you some more updates from across the country and nationwide. The bodies of 4 police officials who were kidnapped by Maoists earlier this week were found lying on the road in Bijapur district of Chhattisgarh. Constables were reportedly killed using sharp weapons. Along with the bodies, the rebels also left behind the belongings of the constables and a handwritten note listing the reasons for the killing. In a fresh ceasefire violation ahead of Prime Minister's visit, Pakistani troops today resorted to mortar shelling, leaving a woman dead and 3 others injured, including a BCF personnel, along the international border in Jammu. Fighting from both sides has since stopped. Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu said a retired judge will be appointed to conduct an inquiry into the stampede that broke out yesterday on the banks of the river Godavari that claimed 27 lives. Authorities today stepped up vigil, diverting pilgrims to various bathing ghats to avoid overcrowding. An Indian is among a group of 20 foreign tourists arrested for suspected links to a terror group in Mongolia. He was allegedly associated with a religiously inspired charity that is under the scanner for terror links. Indian officials confirmed that the embassy in Beijing has sought access to the Indian under arrest. China has agreed to release 11 of the tourists, but the rest will continue to be held without charge. The reason behind their arrest still remains unclear. Well, time for some international news now. And the Greek Parliament votes in a few hours from now on the EU bailout plan. Ahead of the voting, Prime Minister Tsipras called the EU proposals irrational, but expressed willingness to implement it to save Greece from an economic collapse. He faces stiff opposition from his own party. The IMF has come out to say Greece's debt relief has now become highly unsustainable. Here's more.
A last-ditch yet apologetic effort from Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras to sell a tough deal to Parliament, the first big challenge to Greece getting a EU bailout.
Όμως να υλοποιήσω και δεν θα δραπετεύσω από τις ευθύνες μου. Δεν θα δραπετεύσω από τις ευθύνες μου διότι αυτό που προέχει τούτη την ώρα είναι να διασφαλίσω τουλάχιστον ότι η χώρα και τα λαϊκά στρώματα δεν θα διακινδυνεύσουν μια τεράστια καταστροφή, οικονομική καταστροφή. Ότι δεν θα καταρρεύσει το τραπεζικό σύστημα και δεν θα χαθούν οι
His own radical left Syriza party is set to vote against agreement to strong spending cuts, something Tsipras had vowed to.
Δεν ξέρω πόσοι και ποιοι έχουν αυτή την πρόθεση, αλλά είναι δική τους υπόθεση να πάρουν την ευθύνη σε οποιαδήποτε απόφαση. Το γεγονός είναι ότι η χώρα πρέπει να κυβερνηθεί, να σταθεί στα πόδια.
Meanwhile, the IMF criticized EU's bailout proposal, saying it does not go far enough. IMF has recommended a very dramatic extension on the maturity of Greece debts, with grace periods of 30 years on the entire stock of European debt.
Άρα, συναλλαγματικά αποθέματα για να στηρίξει εθνικό νόμισμα δεν υπάρχει. Η προσφυγή, η άτακτη χρεοκοπία δεν θα οδηγούσε μόνο αυτομάτως στην κατάρρευση του τραπεζικού συστήματος, άρα στο να εξαηλωθούν όλες οι καταθέσεις των πολιτών.
Greeks took to the streets ahead of the crucial vote against further austerity measures. The €86 billion deal was agreed in Brussels earlier on Monday. It requires Greece to increase taxes and raise the retirement age. Greek MPs could reject or partially reject the bailout, which will force Tsipras to rely on pro-European opposition lawmakers to carry the vote. A snap election could follow if the Prime Minister's majority collapses. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
Now, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft made its first visit to Pluto, confirming a successful flypast of the planet. Scientists called it a historic day for space exploration. Elated by the success, US President Barack Obama tweeted, "Pluto just had its first visitor."
We are in lock with telemetry with the spacecraft.
Cheers and applause in the mission control room. NASA's New Horizons spacecraft called home after a short planned blackout. Its message traveling 4.7 billion kilometers, reaching 4 hours 25 minutes. More than 9 years after its launch, the US spacecraft sailed past Pluto on Tuesday, capping a 3 billion-mile journey to the solar system's farthest reaches. Pluto, once considered an icy dead world, yielded signs of geological activity with evidence of past and possibly present-day tectonics or movement of its crust, say scientists. They also said the planet has turned out to be larger than expected.
ultimately studies of Pluto, of Charon, the moon of Pluto, the other moons, and this distant new realm beyond Pluto is going to tell us about our own origins. How did the solar system form? How did it get to have the geometry that we have that allows there to be an Earth that's as wonderful as the Earth is? And it will take about 16 months, because Pluto New Horizons spacecraft is so distant, 16 months to send all of that data back to Earth.
The achievement is the culmination of a 50-year effort to explore the solar system. NASA launched the New Horizon on January 19, 2006, even before the big debate started over Pluto's status as a planet. Later, in August 2006, the International Astronomical Union reclassified Pluto as a dwarf planet. New Horizons will keep flying after surveying Pluto, heading deeper into the Kuiper Belt, a region that scientists think is filled with thousands of small icy objects. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time now for all the other international news and global buzz. President Barack Obama has called for sweeping reforms to the U.S. criminal justice system, including curbing of the use of solitary confinement and voting rights for felons. He said lengthy mandatory minimum sentences should be reduced or entirely thrown out. The last significant changes to the criminal justice system in the U.S. came in 2013, when U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder dropped mandatory minimum sentences for non-violent drug offenders. Gulf-backed Yemeni forces recaptured Aden's international airport from Houthi militia fighters on Tuesday as heavy combat took place across the port city following the collapse of a humanitarian truce. Forces loyal to the exiled president Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi also took Aden's central district of Hormazkar, and aid sources reported fighting around the port area as well. A coalition of Arab states has begun bombarding Houthi forces, Yemen's dominant power, since late March in a bid to reinstate Hadi. More than 3,000 people have been killed and more than 1 million displaced since the conflict broke out. Earthquake hit Nepal will train 50,000 workers to help carry out reconstruction, the biggest skill development program in the country's history, as economic growth is expected to fall to the lowest rate in 8 years. It needs $6.6 billion to rebuild after the twin earthquakes in April and May killed almost 9,000 people in the country's worst ever natural disaster. A 94-year-old German man who worked as a bookkeeper in the Auschwitz death camp was convicted of being an accessory to the murder of 3 lakh people and sentenced to 4 years in prison in what could be one of the last big Holocaust trials. Oscar Gröning did not kill anyone himself while working at the camp in Nazi-occupied Poland, but prosecutors argued that by sorting the banknotes from trainloads of arriving Jews, he helped support the regime responsible for mass murder. Some sports now, and a day after the Supreme Court appointed committee suspended IPL teams CSK and Rajasthan Royals for 2 years, cricket authorities say today decided to scrap the Champions League T20 tournament with immediate effect. The governing council, comprising representatives of the cricket boards of India, South Africa and Australia, made the decision unanimously. Scrapping of the CLT20 was always in the cards due to the poor response generated, but the Lodha Committee report was the last straw for the governing council after defending champions Chennai Super Kings was suspended on Tuesday. Well, that's all from us. Goodbye.